Welcome to the Passing the Written Test portion of our program. I'm Ashley, and I'm here to give you the information you need to know in order to pass the written DMV test and obtain your learner's permit. After reading your state's driving manual, watching this video, and completing the interactive practice tests on this DVD, you should be able to pass the written test with ease. However, while this section will help you earn your learner's permit, it does not teach you the necessary skills to become a safe, skillful driver. That's why it's important for you and your parents to use the rest of this DVD as a learning tool after you've received your permit. Let's get started. The first thing you should know is what type of license you'll be applying for. There are 4 license classes. Both Class A and B licenses are usually reserved for larger vehicles, such as trucks and buses. A Class C license is for passenger vehicles, and a Class M license is required to operate mopeds and motorcycles. The license you're probably going to apply for is a Class C license. This allows you to operate passenger cars, SUVs, pickup trucks, and motorhomes weighing less than 26,000 pounds. While most states call this a Class C license, some call it a Class F or Class D license. Be sure to check your state's driving manual for this information. Seatbelts have been proven to save lives, and because of this, they're becoming mandatory from state to state. Drivers and passengers of vehicles equipped with lap and shoulder belts must wear both. You are only permitted to not wear a seatbelt when the vehicle you are riding in, such as a school bus, does not provide one for you. Generally, all children under 6 or less than 60 pounds must be secured using a child restraint. Also, infants should never be placed in the front seat under any circumstance. Secure them in the back seat facing the rear. The age and weight restrictions for child restraint laws vary greatly from state to state, so be sure to check your state's driving manual for information specific to your state. Now let's move along and review the types of signs you will encounter on nearly every journey: regulatory signs, warning signs, informational signs, and construction signs. Regulatory signs tell us what we must do. Obey them in the same way you would obey traffic laws. They are usually black and white and rectangular. A few examples of regulatory signs would be speed limit signs, one-way street signs, and do not pass signs. Warning signs alert drivers of what lies ahead and what to look for. They are generally yellow and black and diamond-shaped. Examples of warning signs include sharp turn ahead, stop sign ahead, and slippery when wet signs. Informational signs are typically green, blue, or brown. Green informational signs provide guidance. An example would be the signs mounted above the highway indicating the lane or lanes to use in order to follow a certain route. Blue informational signs usually indicate motorist services. For example, signs like these found along the highway inform you on where to find fuel, food, and lodging. Brown signs indicate public recreation and places of special interest. For example, they might guide you to a state or local park. Construction signs are used to warn drivers of work areas along the road. These signs are exclusively orange and usually diamond-shaped. Be sure to reduce your speed and drive cautiously through construction zones. Fines are often doubled in these work areas. Knowing signs by their shape and color is essential in order for you to know what to expect as you approach them. For an extensive list of signs and what each of them mean, check out the Signs Index on this DVD. Now let's take a look at the most common signals you'll see. A steady red light means you must come to a stop before the intersection. A steady yellow light means caution, red light coming up. You must stop before the intersection if you can do so safely. If you can't stop safely, proceed through the intersection cautiously before the light turns red. A steady green light means go, if it is safe to do so. Even with a green light, be aware of pedestrians and other traffic within the intersection. If you encounter a green light at a backed-up intersection, make sure you stay out of the intersection until it is clear. If you avoid this advice, you could get stuck in the middle of an intersection while cross-traffic gets a green light. Not only is blocking the intersection dangerous, it's also illegal. A flashing red light means stop before the intersection and then proceed when it is safe to do so. You should handle the signal just as you would a stop sign. A flashing yellow light indicates that you should slow down and proceed cautiously through the intersection. A green arrow showing at the same time as a red light gives you the right of way to travel in the direction of the arrow. If you approach a traffic light where the signals aren't working, you must come to a complete stop and treat it like a stop sign. Among other signals you may encounter is the railroad crossing signal. Railroads can present dangerous challenges if you don't approach them properly. Here are some guidelines. First and foremost, you need to know what each railroad crossing sign means. The black and yellow circular sign warns you that you are within a few hundred feet of a railroad crossing. The white and black crossbuck sign is posted at the location of the tracks. It often includes lights that flash red and a gate that closes when a train is coming. Any time a train is approaching, you need to stop before the tracks and wait for it to pass. Never stop on the tracks and never try to beat a train. Keep in mind that the speed limit is 15 miles per hour as you approach an uncontrolled railroad crossing. Also, vehicles carrying hazardous materials and all passenger buses must stop before crossing any railroad tracks. Pavement markings help you just like signs and signals. They work to regulate traffic, and it's vital that you know what you can and can't do while traveling on roadways with certain markings. Yellow lines indicate that traffic on each side of the line is traveling in opposite directions. A solid yellow line means no passing is permitted in your lane. A double solid yellow line means that there's no passing in either direction. It is legal to make a left turn across double solid yellow lines, but only after yielding the right-of-way to oncoming traffic. However, when traveling on a road with two sets of double solid yellow lines side by side, you are not permitted to cross. Broken yellow lines give you the right to pass vehicles ahead of you as long as you're obeying the speed limit and you're sure it's safe to do so. White lines on a roadway indicate that traffic is traveling in the same direction. Most of the time, white lines will be broken, so you can pass the traffic ahead of you if it is safe to do so as long as you obey the speed limit. Now that you're aware of the lines that regulate traffic flow, you need to abide by some general rules of the road that ensure smooth and safe trips for you and other drivers. First, never ever drive faster than the posted speed limit, regardless of how fast surrounding vehicles are traveling. It's dangerous and illegal. Conversely, it's also unsafe to drive too slowly. Some roads have minimum speed limits posted which you must follow. If you are traveling at a very slow speed on a two-lane rural road for any reason, you must pull over to let traffic pass if 5 or more cars are behind you. If you don't see a posted speed limit, here are some general speed guidelines to follow. When driving in an alley, the speed limit is 15 miles per hour. The speed limit for school zone traffic is typically 25 miles per hour. The speed limit in residential areas, unless otherwise posted, is also 25 miles per hour. Finally, expressway speed limits are generally 65 miles per hour. It's very important that you check your state's driving manual to find out speed regulations specific to your state. These limits vary slightly from state to state. No matter what speed you're driving, you always need to use your turn signal to alert other drivers of your intention to turn. The general rule is to signal about 100 feet prior to each turn. Beyond signaling when making turns, it's also necessary to signal when pulling over to the side of the road and when making a lane change. When making a right turn intersected by a bicycle lane, you must merge into the bicycle lane before completing the turn and never travel in a bicycle lane for more than 200 feet. That would be extremely dangerous for bicyclists, not to mention illegal. While we're on the subject of right turns, you should know that you can make them at a red light. After coming to a complete stop, you can turn right if it is safe to do so, and as long as there isn't a no turn on red sign posted at the intersection. Making left turns tends to be a little trickier and slightly more dangerous than making right turns. However, if you know the right-of-way rules and pay attention to oncoming and surrounding traffic, you'll have no problem making safe and successful left turns. When traveling on a multi-lane road, you must make left turns from the left lane. Also, on a multi-lane road, it is legal to pass a vehicle on the right if they are slowing or stopped to make a left turn. If you wish to make a left turn on green, You may do so only after yielding to any oncoming traffic. If you happen to have a green arrow, then you have the right-of-way to make a left turn, as oncoming traffic has a red light. The center turn lane provides you with a place to begin and end left turns. These are usually found in areas with a lot of oncoming traffic, so you must be extra cautious when turning from one of these lanes. Unless specifically disallowed with a no U-turn sign, it is also legal to start U-turns from the center turn lane. In addition, always stay in your original lane all the way through a turn when there are multiple turn lanes. Be sure to avoid driving in other drivers' blind spots for any period of time. They won't be able to see you and could accidentally run into you or unknowingly attempt a maneuver that causes you to crash. When driving on multi-lane roads, position your car ahead or behind other vehicles in order to avoid their blind spots. In passenger cars like this, the blind spots are found almost directly next to it and on both the left and the right sides. When sharing the road with a large truck, keep in mind that there are 4 large blind spots for truck drivers. These 4 blind spots are called no zones, and truckers can't see you at all if you travel inside these areas. That brings us to the related topic of following distance. In order to be able to brake and steer out of potential problems ahead of you, you should maintain a following distance of at least 3 seconds. As your speed increases, so too should your following distance. It's a good idea to maintain at least a 4-second gap when traveling on an expressway. You should also increase your following distance when the roads are wet and slippery, when towing heavy loads, when being followed too closely by trailing vehicles, when traveling behind large vehicles, such as trucks and buses, and when following motorcycles. The recommended safe following distance varies from state to state, so be sure to check your state's driving manual to get the most accurate information for your state. Now let's take a look at some basic right-of-way rules. When more than one car is stopped at a 4-way intersection, the car that arrived first has the right-of-way. If 2 cars come to a stop at a 4-way intersection at the same time, the car on the right has the right-of-way. If 2 cars come to a stop at the same time at a T intersection, the car on the through road has the right-of-way. If you encounter an uncontrolled intersection, that is, an intersection without signs or signals, be prepared to stop for other vehicles, because you never know if they'll stop or not. Never forget that pedestrians always have the right-of-way at an intersection, whether there are crosswalks or not. Another right-of-way rule is that traffic already traveling on an expressway has the right-of-way over vehicles merging onto the expressway. Traffic exiting the expressway has the right-of-way over traffic entering the expressway. While we're on the subject of expressway driving, you should try to merge at the same speed as traffic already on the expressway. Never stop while merging unless traffic is so backed up that you can't get over. If you approach a stopped vehicle alongside the road, slow down a little and pass them with caution. If you're ever in a situation where you have to tow another vehicle on the expressway, only use the 2 far right lanes, which are generally geared towards slower traffic. Parking is a very basic but very important aspect of driving. Here are some general guidelines to follow when seeking the perfect parking space. You're likely to encounter 5 differently colored curbs on the street. White curbs are solely used for the loading and unloading of passengers and for mail deliveries by the post office. Yellow curbs indicate areas of passenger and freight loading. Green curbs identify areas where parking is limited to a certain amount of time. Parking at an area with a red curb is prohibited, unless you're driving a bus. Finally, blue curbs designate areas for disabled drivers to park. You cannot park in front of driveways and must never double park, that is, park on the street side of a parked car. When you do park legally, you should park within 18 inches of the curb. If you park on a level street, keep your wheels pointed straight ahead. Before exiting a parking space, signal and check for traffic in the street. If the road is clear, you can exit the space. When parking downhill with the curb, turn your wheels toward the curb. If your brakes fail while parked, the car will coast into the curb and stop, rather than into another car or out into traffic. If you park downhill without a curb, park as close to the shoulder as possible and turn your wheels sharply toward the shoulder. If you park uphill with a curb, turn your wheels away from the curb. If your brakes fail, the back of your front tire will roll backwards and hit the curb. When parking uphill without a curb, turn your wheels all the way to the right. This will ensure that your vehicle rolls backwards away from the road if your brakes fail. Driving at night can be dangerous because your vision simply isn't as good as it is during the day. So help yourself and others stay safe by following a few key guidelines. First, you must use your headlights between 30 minutes after sunset and 30 minutes before sunrise. Use your high beams in areas with few street lights and when visibility is low. But make sure you dim them when an oncoming vehicle is within 500 feet or when you're following a vehicle at a distance of 300 feet or less. You should also use your headlights when precipitation is falling. This will make your vehicle more visible to other drivers. Under these conditions, use your low beams no matter the time of day. Speaking of poor road conditions, you must never drive faster than is safe for the current conditions, regardless of what the speed limit is. If it's raining, snowing, or foggy out there, you'll most likely have to slow down to a more appropriate speed. Keep in mind the roads are most slippery after the first rain of the season, so drive accordingly. When the roads are slippery, it's best to downshift to a lower gear, especially when traveling downhill. When it's cold and the roads are wet, bridges and overpasses typically freeze before the rest of the road, so be extremely cautious when you encounter either of these. If rain, snow, or fog ever gets so heavy that you can't see the road ahead, pull over, activate your hazard lights, and wait for the elements to subside. There are a few other pieces of information you need to know. Even though they don't fit neatly into a category, these tidbits of knowledge are necessary for you to know in order to pass the written test. While you may never drive on a sidewalk as if it was a road, you may drive across one when entering or exiting a driveway or alley. Any cargo extending beyond 4 feet of your bumper must be marked with warning lights or a simple red flag. When an emergency vehicle is approaching, pull over to the right edge of the road and stop to allow them to pass. If this occurs at an intersection, continue through the intersection and then pull over. When approaching a bicyclist, allow at least 3 feet between your vehicle and their bicycle if and when you pass them. Your vehicle is equipped with a horn so that you may warn other drivers of errors they are making or are about to make. It is not to be used to say hello to your friends on the street or as a form of road rage. If you're involved in a minor fender bender, move your vehicle off the road and out of traffic before getting out and exchanging information with other parties involved. If you damage a parked car and can't find the owner, you must leave a note including your name, address, and phone number. You must then report the accident to the police. If you are involved in an accident resulting in injury or death, you must file a written report with the Department of Motor Vehicles and notify the police. Also, if you're involved in an accident or stopped for a citation, you must show proof of insurance to the police officer. Being alert and aware of your surroundings is of utmost importance when you're driving. That's why you must keep your mind and body free of drugs and alcohol when getting behind the wheel. It is illegal for anyone of any age to drive with a blood alcohol concentration of 0.08 or greater. Furthermore, minors, or anyone under the age of 21, must abide by the zero tolerance law. This law states that a minor may not purchase, attempt to purchase, possess, or consume alcohol. It is illegal for a minor to have any detectable trace of alcohol in their system. It is also illegal for anyone to drive with an open container of alcohol in their vehicle, unless it's in their trunk. Beyond illicit drugs and alcohol, it's illegal to drive under the influence of any medication that impairs your ability to drive. Along the lines of impaired ability to drive, driving while sleepy is dangerous. If you start to tire while driving, pull over to a safe spot and rest as long as necessary to regain alertness. Using a cell phone while driving is not only extremely dangerous, but it's also illegal in some states. Check your state's driver's manual to see if yours is one of them. Finally, it's also illegal to listen to music through dual headphones while driving. Doing so prevents you from being able to hear any approaching emergency vehicles. Whew! We've covered a lot of information in a short period of time, and you need to know all of it to increase the likelihood of your passing the written test. However, in addition to this video, We strongly suggest you read your state's driving manual thoroughly. Each state has a unique set of laws and we couldn't possibly have covered them all. If you don't already have a copy of your state's manual, you can obtain one online or pick one up at your local DMV. Watching this video, completing our interactive practice tests, and reading the manual gives you the best opportunity for success. Remember, earning your permit is only the first step. In order to become a safe, skillful driver, watch the Rules of the Road DVD in its entirety, including all of the awesome, insightful bonus sections. Hopefully, I'll see you on the road soon. Good luck!